just 18 days away from Election Day, and the newest political star, Joe the Plumber, is seeing the dirty side of politics. Joe, an Ohio plumber, became a household name after he questioned Barack Obama's tax plan. Now, since then, he's been criticized about everything from not having a plumber's license to owing money in back taxes. And today, Senator McCain defended Joe at a rally in Florida. Let's take a listen.
The response from Senator Obama and his campaign yesterday was to attack Joe. People are digging through his personal life, and he has TV crews camped out in front of his house. He didn't ask Senator Obama to come to his house. He wasn't recruited or prompted by our campaign. He just asked a question.
Joining us now is the co-founder of Real Clear Politics, Tom Bevan, and radio talk show host Dennis Prager will be joining us in a minute. And also joining us, Obama supporter Michael Brown. All right, now before we get to anything here, it's beyond. All he did was ask a question. Now he's had his full background check and smear and attack and besmirched this poor guy. Let's watch as Biden and Obama mock him, and listen to the laughing in the crowd as we play this.
He's trying to suggest that a plumber is the guy he's fighting for. How many plumbers do you know making $250,000 a year?
John continues to cling to the notion, evidence the fact this guy Joe the Plumber. I don't have any Joe the Plumbers in my neighborhood that make $250,000 a year and are worried.
You know something, Michael Brown? I think to attack this man who asked a simple question, that if he starts a business, you know, and to mock him, and to let the crowd mock him, and to let the media investigate him, and to, you know, he didn't pay back taxes, this is so fundamentally despicable. Why can't you, as a Democrat, say, you know what, leave Joe the Plumber alone? He's out there swinging a wrench for 12 hours a day, probably 6 or 7 days a week. Do you think it's unfair what's happening to him?
Yeah, I do, Sean. Actually, you and I are probably going to agree on this issue.
Good for you.
Frankly, it doesn't really matter much. I don't think voters necessarily care. And frankly, Senator Obama and Senator Biden, I don't think are really putting that much into it. Clearly, you've taken some snippets out of some comments that were made.
Yeah, I know. Jeremiah writes snippets, Bill Ayers snippets.
But at the end of the day,
at
the end of the day, Sean, voters I don't think really care about this particular issue. They do care about folks who are wondering how they're going to get their next job and make sure that they
wait a minute. You can't have it both ways. Here's the difference. And let me go to Tom on this. You can't have it both ways. You can't mock, you know, Joe the Plumber. They were mocking up. I don't know any plumber that makes $250,000 a year. The guy wants to own his own business. And Tom, the way I see this race, and maybe Sean Hannity is in a different direction than the rest of the country. A guy who had to drop out of college, guy that was scrubbing pots and pans, that's me, when I was 12 years old, trying to make my own way in life, that I was told if you need a helping hand, look down at the end of your arm. That's your helping hand. But what I think America has a choice in this election. Either we're going to become European socialists, we're going to be France, and wave the white flag of surrender, and we're going to nationalize health care, and we're going to redistribute the wealth. That's our patriotic duty. Or we're going to be Americans with individual responsibility. Is that a fair choice that I'm outlining for the American people?
Well, I mean, that's the distinction, the contrast that John McCain has been trying to draw with Obama, the sort of traditional liberal versus conservative. But he's been terribly ineffective at it until Joe the Plumber came along and served as a sort of vehicle in asking this question, because the fundamental issue here is not Joe the Plumber or even the question he asked. It's really Obama's response, spreading the wealth around. McCain's been able to key off of that to his advantage, I think, over the last couple of days.
Tom and Michael, McCain and Biden, I should say Biden and Obama, were not mocking Joe the Plumber. They were mocking John McCain.
Yes, they were. The crowd was laughing.
Excuse me. They were mocking John McCain and his use of Joe the Plumber and trying to hold this guy up. John McCain vetted Joe the Plumber about as well as he vetted Sarah Palin. That's what the problem is.
Yeah, and
well, that's a cheap shot against Sarah Palin.
No, it's not against Sarah Palin, Sean. It's against John McCain's lack of vetting of a candidate and a bad choice for a vice president.
She's the most popular governor in the country.
You got a bunch of we don't need the guest, Sean. We're not going to go at it now. You got a bunch of conservatives going after Sarah Palin. You got Kathleen Parkey. You've got a whole bunch of conservatives going after her and saying that she shouldn't be on the ticket. But that's not the issue here. The issue was Joe the Plumber, Michael, and it wasn't he who was being. That was not the target of the comments of Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Because he wasn't vetted properly by the McCain campaign.
Well, I would bet the McCain campaign now are talking about Joe the Plumber as much as possible, because anytime they can get off the issues that matter to the American people, they think that's a winner for them. Anytime they can do distraction politics, they think that's a winner for them. So Joe the Plumber, you're going to hear about that from John McCain and Sarah Palin for quite a while now. But Barack Obama and Joe Biden are going to focus on things that matter.
Also, Tom,
education, gas prices, the economy, foreign policy. Those are things that really matter now to people, not Joe the Plumber. I'm sure he's a nice guy and he shouldn't be slandered.
He's probably a great guy. He works very, very hard.
But Sean, that's a very small issue, and Alan, I'm sure you agree with that.
Tom, this is a guy who, it turns out, is not a swing voter. He's not an independent. He's a registered Republican. He's not a licensed plumber. And, in fact, forget about McCain or anybody else here. You've got or Obama or Biden throwing him down the stairs. You've got the head of his local union saying he's not licensed, he didn't take training, and he shouldn't be calling himself a plumber. That's the head of his union there, not anybody in a political campaign.
But, Alan, that's not necessarily the issue. And the idea that the McCain campaign would have to vet a private citizen for asking a question is somewhat ridiculous. And now you've got a situation where you've got John McCain out there defending this guy who happens to be a working-class guy.